The Jack Rose cocktail and Bald Jack Rose becomes the first police officer in the United States to be tried, convicted, and executed for murder. I seem to be spilling my drink. Is there a hole in this drink? Let's get jacked. Bald Jack Rose, he's got alopecia. The man has no eyebrows. People were less sensitive back then. Poor Jack Rose. First, let me tell you, no one in this story is innocent. America, it's time to resurrect Applejack. It's usually relegated to the back corner of the liquor store, collecting dust in the brandy section. But really, it was America's first distilled liquor. They were making this before they were making Jack Daniels. They've been making this stuff since before the American Revolution. Applejack, made by hijacking liquor. Want to know how to jack liquor? Okay, take apple cider, put it in an oak cask, freeze it over winter, and then you're left behind with a highly concentrated liquor, jacking your apple cider, Applejack. Which leads me to the Jack Rose cocktail, Bald Jack Rose, and the murder of Herman Rosenthal. This is a true story. The Jack Rose cocktail is not named for Bald Jack Rose. Bald Jack Rose thinks it's his cocktail, but it ain't. Here's the Jack Rose cocktail from the William Boothby's The World's Drinks and How to Mix Them. This issue predates Jack Rose. It's from 1908. The Jack is for Applejack, and the Rose is for the color of Grenadine. You need 2 ounces of Applejack, 1 ounce of freshly squeezed lemon juice, and a ½ ounce of grenadine. This is my homemade grenadine. I'll give you the recipe of that down below. And shake. And double strain into a cocktail glass or 2. There you go. Cheers. That's nice. It's got a little bit of a crisp apple taste, sweetened by the grenadine and livened up by the lemons. It's a keeper. Applejack. Now it's on to some murder. I have some leftover pie crust that I'm going to roll out to make some cocktail crackers and tell you the story of Bald Jack Rose and the murder of Herman Rosenthal. Bald Jack Rose, he's got alopecia. The man has no eyebrows. Poor Jack Rose. Okay, I've got some leftover pie crust, so I'm going to roll out some crackers to go with this cocktail. The murder of Herman Rosenthal. I like to spread a little flour on the board. The murder of Herman Rosenthal. Let me first say, no one in this story is innocent. In 1912, much like today, an economic revolution has caused a great disparity in wage and earnings in the city of New York, and a progressive movement is on the rise. Reformers and the temperance movement, they're trying to clean up the streets of New York, while others like Herman Rosenthal were just moving in to capitalize on the vice of the ever-expanding population in New York. In the fall of 1911, Herman Rosenthal decides that he wants a piece of the action, so he opens a gambling hall. But gambling's not legal in the city of New York, so he pays Lieutenant Charles Becker of the New York Police Department $1,000 a week in protection money. Bald Jack Rose, the owner of a competing gambling hall, the Rosebud, he's the bagman. He's collecting the money every month, and he does not like Rosenthal. Poor Jack Rose. The only issue is that Becker's police commissioner boss was a reformer looking to clean up the town. And he tells Becker to raid Rosenthal's new casino, and Becker does. And down the rabbit hole we go. The raid infuriates Rosenthal. He's like, I'm paying you $1,000 a week, which is like $20,000 a week in today's value. And what do? You come in and you destroy my gambling den. You destroy all the roulette tables. You know, they came in with axes and like broke everything down. Rosenthal decides, okay, I'm going to the press and I'm going to expose all this corruption. So he gets so pissed off that he goes to the press and he says the New York City Police Department is corrupt. And he tells the newspapers that Lieutenant Becker is extorting thousands and thousands of dollars from brothels and casinos all over New York. And the news just blows up. If you want to get fancy, you can use a cutter. The news breaks, and the district attorney calls Rosenthal in for grand jury testimony. The night before Rosenthal is going to testify, he's gunned down and murdered in front of a hotel by 4 gangsters in a drive-by shooting. There were witnesses. And you know who rented the car? Bald Jack Rose, the bagman for Lieutenant Becker. Poor Jack Rose. They bring Jack Rose in, and he sings. Bald Jack Rose, he was just following orders. He tells the DA that Lieutenant Becker orchestrated all of it, that Lieutenant Becker forced the hit on him. I got a lot of pie crust because I've been making a lot of pies. So what did the police do in response? They do what the police always do. They reassigned Becker to another district and gave him a desk job. But the press, they weren't satisfied. And the DA, Charles Williams, he's looking to run for governor. And a cop hiring an execution-style killing sells a lot more newspapers than some gangsters doing a drive-by. Lieutenant Becker's assets will exceed his police salary, so the case goes to trial. You know, every time I travel, I like to pick up a regional spice. This is the Spice House Gateway to the North maple garlic seasoning. It goes great on crackers, kind of sweet and savory. This is from Portland, from Jacobson Salt Company. It's a black garlic salt. Both of these are slightly sweet, so it goes well with the pie crust. And then you can use whatever spice you want. I like cinnamon sugar as well. You can make these sweet or savory. You could also grate a hard cheese on it. I've got some hard aged Alpine cheese that's been sitting in the back of the fridge for a while. And then this just goes into a 350-degree oven for about 10 or 12 minutes. These crackers, they're delicious. It's like a butter cracker. These crackers go well with cheese. They go well with apples. Jack Rose. I spilled it again. Jack Rose cocktail. These crackers, delicious. So much Jack Rose. The news loves a victim. In New York, it was the age of reform. People were trying to clean up the police department. So they threw the book at Becker. Becker, he's going down. The papers, they love a victim. Jack Rose is the key witness, and on his testimony, Baker and the 4 gunmen are all tried, convicted, and sentenced to death. Becker dies at Sing Sing in an electric chair. 1912, it's the beginning of the electric chair. They haven't gotten things right. They haven't perfected things. It took 9 minutes to kill Lieutenant Becker. He was screaming. The Becker family, they still insist that he was innocent. Charles Williams, the DA, runs for governor and wins. And Jack Rose, the man who put the hit together, he gets off scot-free. Bald Jack Rose, he ends up making thousands of dollars telling his story in vaudeville. I'm just eating crackers and telling stories. Bald Jack Rose and the Rosenthal murders are in every paper in the United States. And the Jack Rose cocktail surges in popularity. And so did the Rosenthal murders. Gerald, he mentions the Rosenthal murder in The Great Gatsby. Jake Barnes in Hemingway's The Sun Also Rises, he drinks a Jack Rose. maybe more. But then, like all pop culture, what comes up comes down, and the Jack Rose just kind of fades out of popularity. I think it's time for a resurgence. These crackers are delicious, and so is the Jack Rose cocktail. Another round? See you next time. Thanks for stopping by.